Ethiopian defense forces are launching a final offensive in Tigray region as fighting continues. Tunisia and Libya resume flight operations after months of suspension due to COVID-19. These and more coming your way on the World Today. Hello, you're watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us. And now the news in detail. Now, between September 30th and November 8th, new COVID-19 infections in the Gambia range from 1 to 7 cases per day. The country barely hit 10 or more cases per day in over 3 months, and this has got health authorities in the country response program worried about the low turnout for COVID-19 tests. The CISA has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia is experiencing a very low number of new cases of the coronavirus when other countries have entered a second wave of new infections. Many people in the Gambia seem to lack interest in the government's voluntary testing initiative, and this, according to observers, has led to the massive drop in the number of new cases recorded daily. The coordinator of the Public Health Emergency Operations Center, Epidemiology and Disease Control Unit, Sanasambu, agrees with the notion that the low numbers in new cases is as a result of the low number of new tests.
You see, for a country, if you want to know whether the cases are going down or what is the magnitude of the outbreak and things like that, you can only gauge it by making sure your interventions are working. So, but what we see now is people are not coming out to be tested. And if we are not getting people to be tested, we can actually say what is the level of the virus in the country or the outbreak in the country. People should be tested. And that's what is going to tell us whether the virus is here or not, whether more cases are coming up or not, or whether we are only into another option or not. You can only know this when people are really coming out to be tested. But Gambians are not coming out to be tested voluntarily.
During the start of the pandemic in the Gambia, and with even fewer testing centers, many people were actively taking voluntary COVID-19 tests, especially in the months of June, July and August, when the country reached its peak. But as the government announced the introduction of new COVID-19 testing centers, some of which situated in the heart of local communities, the numbers of people turning out for tests dropped, so as the numbers of new infections. With the mandatory quarantine rules dropped, Sambu says it is important for people to get tested and that they should not be afraid, because if they are positive, then health authorities will find ways to work with them in their recovery process.
We are not going to quarantine anybody as before. We are not going to pick up anybody in the community as before. We will only be picking people who really need care and they need our support. Those people, obviously, if they need, we can force them, but if they need us to pick them up and help them to get treated, we will do so. But forcefully quarantining people and isolating people is not more happening. So let people know this. Just come and get tested. Even if you are positive, we know how to work with you, but we not people from your home anymore. Those days are over. So there is no fear or no whatever that will keep people away from getting tested.
With France, Spain and other European countries experiencing a resurgence of the coronavirus with a high increase in the number of new infections, countries in Africa where the figures have been relatively lower than other continents have yet to report a second wave of new infections. But is the Gambia prepared for new outbreak of the virus? Mr. Sambu again.
Exception, we have been very, very vigilant and very active on the ground and well prepared actually. This preparedness will never be relaxed until we know from the WHO or the global community that the public emergency has been relaxed. But since that is not yet announced, we still have to be very, very active on the ground. And in fact, what we're doing now is just a race. As you go towards the end of the race, you have to add up your speed to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. We will not say because we have less cases, we're going to relax. No, this is the best time when we are actually revisiting our plans and ensure that we become more stronger than before.
The Gambia began reporting a few new cases of COVID-19 when the number of samples taken daily significantly dropped. As of Thursday, 19 November 2020, the Ministry of Health reported 0 new cases and deaths. The total number of confirmed coronavirus cases is 3,705, including 122 people who died from the virus. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Gambian health authorities there seems to be worried about the low public turnout for the COVID-19 test despite a drop in the number of new cases in the country. And from the report, next to of course to Ethiopia, where Ethiopian citizens are out in solidarity with the country's national defense force as they continue to implement what the authorities describe as law enforcement mission in the northern Tigray region. The Ethiopian National Army is on its final heavy offensive against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, according to the army officials. Despite neighboring countries and international organizations calling for peaceful resolution, the Ethiopian government is adamant to see out its mission in Tigray. Here are more details of that in this report.
What the Ethiopian government calls a law enforcement mission in its northern region of Tigray is now almost 2 weeks old. It is said the nation's army is on its final heavy offensive against the TPLF.
The mission of upholding the law and sovereignty is ongoing at the moment, strengthened more than the days before. The unfaithful group is facing the strong arms of the National Defense Forces, and the law enforcement measures are particularly being taken on the rogue force by avoiding as much as possible any civilian casualties. The mission now is gaining a number of victories in all battlefields and will continue this until the group surrenders for the constitutional order.
And already people have come out on the streets across the country to show support and respect for the National Defense Forces. The office of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the rally is seen as a huge morale boost for the army.
This 2-minute activity, which entailed standing in honor for the National Defense Forces and also giving them a morale boost and encouraging them that the Ethiopian people are behind them, are supporting them, and are also supporting the finalization of this rule of law operation with the minimum impact to civilians. But this is planned, or the whole rule of law operation is planned with the perspective of bringing lasting peace and stability to Ethiopia, particularly within the Tigray region, as well as all other regions in the country.
Communication and power remain largely cut off in the Tigray regional state, and it's almost impossible to gain tangible information from that area. The international community as well as neighboring states still are calling for the resolution of the conflict in Ethiopia through dialogue. Such repeated calls are now being made by the UN, the African Union, and neighboring states such as Kenya and Sudan. Ethiopian authorities, however, say the effort of finding solutions through peaceful means has expired, and such an effort won't return until the mission of law enforcement ends successfully.
And from the report on the Ethiopia-Tigray conflicts, we come back home and report on the ongoing public hearings of the TRC, because a man called Abdul Mdin has told the Truth Commission that he was informed that the former president, Yahya Jammeh, sent his death squad, the junglers, to get him arrested in Bissau and put him in a bag of rice. Dean, a former principal budget officer, said the former accountant general Ali Job, who was accused of being involved in an aborted coup plot in 2006, had mentioned him as introducing law to Emarabo. Fatima Kasim tells us more of that in this report.
Abdul Mdin didn't think Jammeh and his torture and death squads will get into him if the planned coup of March 2006 fails. But he said he was shocked that investigators into the fuel coup came looking for him.
So I was just thinking that if they arrest Aliou, we were just going to interrogate him and ask him his relationship with people. And what they have, just to interview him on those issues. If they are satisfied, maybe they can let him go. If not, maybe he can be going up and down, back and forth. I was hoping that by the time I return from the meeting, there's a possibility that Aliou could be released. But to imagine that during those investigations, they will go to the level of saying who is your marabout, and to know who that marabout is, to go to the extent of how do you know this marabout? My name surfaces. And so to be honest, with me and Allah, I was never scared because I didn't thought it was going to reach that level. It was just going to be contained within Aliou and the military. The investigation was going to be confined to that level. But when I was given this information at the meeting, like I said, that is when my world started crashing down. I know now I'm in trouble. Yes, Council.
Dean was in Dakar, the capital of neighboring Senegal, when an army chief by the name Colonel Ndour Cham attempted to overthrow the Yaya Jammeh dictatorship. The National Intelligence Agency could not get to him, so they seized 2 of his cars. Dean admitted to the Truth Commission on Tuesday that he knew that his actions in concealing a coup plot was a crime. However, he said at that time in 2006, he saw nothing wrong with what the coup plotters were doing because his friend was involved and he could not report him.
Not understand at the time how I saw things. It's my friend. Just keeping secrets for him. No, that's wrong. I cannot go and report him. Add him into trouble. And myself into trouble. Trade the trust. When his people's plans failed, approached me for help. I went and helped. So I was just at the time, I just saw it. Someone who was keeping a secret for the friend. When things went bad for him, and his people approached me as a friend, as a confidant, I complied to help. You are right what you said.
In his closing testimony, Dean applauded the current government for making sure he is reinstated and given all that he deserves. For iAfrica News, I am Fatmata Kasim.
The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission continued to, of course, welcome more witnesses as its work continues. And from that report there, next to North Africa, where the movement of goods and services have returned to normalcy between Tunisia and Libya after months of border closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. Following weeks of consultations between the 2 North African nations, they have agreed to resume passenger travel to boost business activities. Experts say the resumption of operation between the 2 countries will help revive their economies that were adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The Tunis-Carthage Airport Authority has put in place a strict health protocol as it receives more travelers transiting through Tunisia's main airport. All Tunisian and Libyan travelers must comply with the new safety measures.
We've decided to resume air traffic between Tunisia and Libya because this is a normal situation between 2 brotherly countries. I wish stability for our Libyan brothers. I hope they will reach an inter-Libya political settlement.
The Ras Asjir border crossing between Tunisia and Libya also reopened for travelers in both directions after a closure of 8 months. Prime Minister Hisham Meshishi declared all measures had been taken to restore life at the border crossings, which had experienced weeks of blockades. He added that economic activities were negatively affected during the pandemic.
Tunisia and Libya are one people in two countries, and such border crossing closure for 8 months cannot return or continue, considering the human, historical, and economic relationship between the two countries. We want to limit the impact of this health crisis and its negative effects on economic life. We have prepared with the Libyan side a health protocol that guarantees the safe travel of Tunisians and Libyans.
Experts believe the resumption of flights will boost the economy in the two North African countries. Authorities are optimistic the exchange of goods and services is expected to peak in the next 2 months.
Exporting local products to the Libyan market is vital to hundreds of Tunisian companies. Tens of thousands of Tunisians work in Libya in different economic sectors. Opening that border and resuming flights will benefit businesses on both sides, especially in border regions, which depend on trade between Tunisia and Libya.
Tunisia announced on March 17th that it closed airports for inbound flights to curb the virus outbreak. It partially resumed flights to Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Canada on June 27th. After several weeks of negotiation, Tunisia and Libya have reached an agreement on a joint health protocol to combat COVID-19. The agreement includes several measures applicable to Tunisian and Libyan nationals during their travel between the two North African countries.
You are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and there's more news coming ahead. But from that report there in Tunisia, we'll now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. And of course, thank you very much for joining us. Now we return to matters of the TRRC again. Major Yaya Dabo, a former army staff officer, said he willingly joined a plot to overthrow the former government of the former Yahya Jammeh government in 2006 because he thought Gambia was in a desperate situation. Dabo, he is an army captain at the time, told the Truth Commission on Wednesday that he joined the Army Chief of Defense Staff, Colonel Dolu Cham's plot to help rescue the Gambia by ousting President Yahya Jammeh. Let's have more of that in this report.
The coup attempt failed and dozens of people, including soldiers and civilians, suffered severe consequences that involved detention, torture, and jail time. One of those who faced torture in the hands of Jammeh's death squad was Major Yaya Dabo, who was an army captain in 2006. Dabo was to be responsible for distributing arms to soldiers and to take control of the Gambia's only airport. But the plan failed when a plane carrying Yaya Jammeh landed at the airport after the airspace was closed. Dabo was arrested from his home and locked up at Mile 2, the country's central prison, and faced torture at the headquarters of the National Intelligence Agency. He said he was forced to write a statement and had to change it several times to align with other made-up statements by his fellow coupists.
I just had the knock on my left eye where they stick gone brought and I fell immediately on my stomach. And I told him, you've broken my eye. And Musa rose up. Hey, wait. He said, please, Dabo, sit down. So I sat down. This eye closed. And started bleeding all over.
Major Dabo will have to go through a second torture session at the National Intelligence Agency on March 23, 2006, 2 days after the first torture session. These torture sessions include a severe beating with sticks, putting of lit cigarette butts on victim's body, and lead burning nylon droplets onto your body.
After that initial beating, now they just stay what they call the burial party. Where you have these coconut palms or trees will be used, palms will be used. They will cut, they will trim it. Then 3 of them or 4. Then you lie down flat. Then they will beat you with that till it can't use to beat you again, broken down completely. They cannot be used to beat you anymore. Now they tell us move to the charity house. And that place, on that place, you have to roll. Yeah, that's why rolling this. Korea will take this plus Rambo. Jaju will take these wire coils. And stand over you. And beating you as you are rolling till the faster you reach that place. Yeah, the faster you reach there, the lesser pain you get. At that place, they will take cement blocks. Put it on you. Start on it. And start they are smoking their jam or their cigarette. Whatever you can remember to torture individually, you can do it. So put cigarette on your body. Like mine was done by Korea, that lit a nylon plastic bag on my these labs here.
The former adjutant said he was also put in a bag and hanged on a crane. Then the controller will let the rope loose free and he will fall on the ground, while his torturers will be laughing at him. Major Yaya Dabo is a native of Badibusali, Kenya in the North Bank region. He received military training in Ghana, Senegal and Nigeria. He was a second lieutenant in 1996, full lieutenant in 2000, a captain from 2004 to the time he was arrested in 2006. Yaya Dabo was convicted on charges of counseling or procuring persons to commit mutiny, treason and conspiracy to commit treason. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 2017, Dabo was reinstated into the army and promoted to the rank of major.
And from the report there filed in by Sohna Tunkra on the ongoing hearings of the TRRC finally now to DRC, where after many months of struggle against the Ebola disease, health officials in the DR Congo has once again managed to eliminate the latest outbreak of the disease in the country. International organizations, including the WHO, supported DRC with funding and other medical equipment in the fight against the disease. As the country continued to deal with other diseases, health professionals have continued to caution the public to stop eating bushmeat to prevent the spread of the disease again in the country. Let's have more of that in this report.
Health workers in the DRC have been struggling to contain the country's 11th Ebola outbreak in Equator province. The outbreak occurred in an area with a dense rainforest, making it difficult for them to reach patients. Officials recorded 130 Ebola cases and 55 deaths since June this year, but they've managed to win the battle against the disease.
Je suis heureux de déclarer solennellement la fin.
I'm happy to solemnly declare the end of the 11th epidemic of the Ebola virus in the DRC's province of Equator.
Scientists say the Ebola virus is found in wild animals like monkeys and bats. Those animals are a delicacy in the area where the latest Ebola outbreak occurred. The DRC health minister has warned the public against eating such meat.
We are sensitizing the community about the dangers of eating bushmeat. In our country, there's a culture of eating meat from wild animals, but we have to stop it to prevent the spread of diseases like Ebola.
International health organizations have provided the DRC with financial and technical support to help end this outbreak.
The World Health Organization will continue putting all the effort needed to support the DRC strengthen its surveillance systems to ensure that there's no resurgence of Ebola.
The disease broke out in June as the country grappled with another Ebola outbreak in the east and other epidemics like measles, monkeypox and the COVID-19 pandemic. Congolese officials have attributed the containment of the country's 11th Ebola outbreak to the commitment of health workers, the cooperation of the community, and the availability of vaccines. They say more than 40,000 people were vaccinated during the outbreak. Authorities are now working on strengthening the detection of the disease across the country.
DR Congo's health authorities, or health officials, they managed to contain the latest outbreak of the Ebola disease in the country. And with that report from the DRC, we finally bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can visit our website on africa.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for being, stay safe, and bye for now.